Humans started pushing buttons a long time ago. They made an object called a car, a vehicle, with an engine. You pushed a button, you pushed a button, you pushed a button. You stared at a button with no gasoline. You stared at a button, you stared at a button, you stared at a button, you have no gasoline. You purchased gasoline, you pushed a button, you pushed a button, you pushed a button, you pushed a button. However, not until rockets went up, up, and away, safely returning to Earth often and then occasionally making an atomic explosion. After a person pushed a button. What's different though has to do with when my uncle and my grandfather fought in World War I and World War II. They weren't pushing a button for a tank to be assembled and for a bomb to be dropped after a human in a factory built an object to stop suffering. They used wrenches. They pushed buttons occasionally, but they didn't just hit a button with their finger pushing a button. They saw with their eyes and observed a button. Dropping not the one bomb my uncle and his brothers and sisters made, and his friends and his comrades and probably everyone else made, one at a time. A human pushes a button now. And similar to Ukraine and war there now, 80,000 people are dead. One button away from extinction. However, humans are still pushing the button, observing the button, and pushing the button, and looking at the button, and pushing the button. Telling children to learn about critical race theory and worry about the climate change they're going to have when they get older. Teaching them to push a button. Telling them to look at the button and then push a button. To have equality and to have a pride festival. And the poet who speaks about the neutrality of having no gender, of having the dominance to speak aloud in silence. Pushing a button, looking at a button, taking a break for a few minutes, pausing for an hour. Plugging in the button. Pushing the button. Leaving the button. For an hour. A nuclear reactor a person observes a button. Another person pushes a button and there's energy. They push buttons, they push buttons, they stare at buttons, they push buttons, they stare at buttons, they push buttons, they stare at buttons, they push a button. And there's no longer stars and stripes. There's no longer polka dots and rainbows and unicorns jumping to fly away from the button they have to push and observe. With the dinosaur who has a gray brain and purple heart.